everybody. I trust you all can hear me. Yeah, okay. Without much ado, let's get started with this session because we're running fairly late, and I think some of our panelists have sort of broken off from various things to come. Mr. Harish Manian, for instance, is just in the middle of a fairly significant healthcare acquisition deal. He's just left his bankers back in the office and come. So without much ado, let's get started. You'll have already heard from the lady up there about introductions on each of them. So we'll sort of cut to the chase. So if I could start with Mr. Manian of MGM Healthcare. Healthcare industry, especially in Tamil Nadu and Madras, being sort of almost called the capital of medical tourism and healthcare of a certain high quality in India at this point. How do you sort of ensure that you differentiate yourself? How do you ensure that MGM Healthcare manages to acquire a fairly large volume of patient, should I say, patients? Would you like to just sort of talk to us? So I'd request each of you all to try and stick to about 2.5, 3 minutes so that we have enough of an opportunity to go around a couple of times, and then we'd probably throw it open to the audience for questions. Mr. Manian.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. And thanks for having me. And thanks to EU4M for organizing this event and inviting us for this particular session. And I'm probably the odd man out in this entire gathering today, talking about healthcare and marketing together. Interestingly, this concept of marketing in healthcare and healthcare as an industry has been recognized quite late. And marketing in healthcare was always considered as a taboo. But coming to the point right now, I think I always remember one point which is mentioned in Kotler's book, that if the product is bad, whoever comes can't market it actually. For us in MGM, I think what we got it right was the product, what we wanted to do. As a city which is overcrowded with probably the best destination for medical tourism and healthcare, what we got right as a company was the first product which we launched in the market. We got our doctors right, we got the positioning right, we got the people in the system to run the operations right, and maybe that is the result why today we see ourselves as one of the newcomer or the startup in healthcare which has significantly made a dent with the big boys in the market actually. So my take on healthcare journey for MGM, I think I'm presenting a paper in IIM Kharagpur on the journey, shortest journey for MGM to become a brand. I think for me, I think the biggest problem solving statement when I came to this company was, this is the most abused name in India. From roads to buildings to everything is MGM. Our MGM stands for Mahatma Gandhi, by the way. So Mahatma Gandhi is everywhere. And what we couldn't find is that MGM was given to probably almost 10 big hospitals in the country itself. There is MGM in Wardha, there is MGM in Vizag, there is MGM in Bombay, everywhere. So what has happened is, I think to figure our positioning right between the crowd of MGMs was the biggest challenge. And also to set a product which is set apart in terms of the kind of excellence what we do in clinical services, what also a challenge. I still remember a day when one of my juniors landed up in MGM Vashi in Bombay, and he said, "Sir, मैं आ गया हूँ, मिलते हैं अभी." मैंने बोला 7th floor आ जाओ, बोलते हैं यहाँ तो 2 ही floor है. So I don't know. So this was the issue with the brand, to lost in a large brand identity with the same name, to create yourself stand out. The biggest challenge was to get the product right, get the specialities right, and I think that we could do it reasonably well so far. And today we recognized as one of the go-to place for tertiary quaternary care work in the country. So I think something we have done right, and that is from the positioning and the product point of view.
Thank you very much, Harish. If I could go to Guru Kirti. Carrot Lane is this omni-channel operation that you've started right from the get-go. You have a fairly interesting, should I say, parentage now with Titan having come in, and you're sort of co-working with Tanishq. Tanishq has a very unique, distinct identity, and you have a distinct identity. So what's been your journey so far, and how is omni-channel working for you all, especially in something like jewelry, where it's a very traditional market? You have the established Womadis and GR Tangamala guys and so on. So people would like to go to a store and see the object and buy it. So how does the omni-channel, especially online ordering of jewelry, work for you all?
Thanks, Suresh, for the question. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting E4M. We weren't omni-channel from the word go. Actually, that's the big insight that we were able to get from running this business for the last 15 years. So we started off as a digital native company, just like many other, organizations or brands that want to get online. This was in year 2008. You can imagine Flipkart was trying to sell books online, and we had the vision, or we wanted to have the jewelry being sold online, or we wanted to have people buy diamonds online is the larger goal, right? And it was, I mean, people would laugh it off in 2008 when the internet was coming up, but somewhere deep in our conviction, we wanted to do this, and we think that India's journey aspect, and it definitely will happen. It's just a matter of time. So what started as a digital native, the biggest learning came in 2012 when we realized that you can't just have a website and sell a product, and you need to have a big brand presence, and people want to have a touch point where they need to know that this brand is real. Jewelry being a segment, there's a lot of inferior quality, or there are a lot of frauds that happen on purity and so on. So the trust factor plays a very big role. So to build the trust, you need to have a strong presence somewhere physically. So we opened up our first experience center in Delhi at that point in time, and it was a simple touch point. People can come and experience the brand, questions answered. Still, it was an online heavy journey. And somewhere during 2013, 2014, we realized that is the way forward for us, and started slowly opening up more showrooms. And we started realizing there is a lot of interplay between online and offline that the customers are naturally tending to do. So 2016, when the Tanishq association happened, when Titan did a strategic investment on Carrot Lane, the trust factor actually amplified a lot, on the brand Carrot Lane itself. And now we can actually do a lot of things that we were not able to do before. So across India, the name started, getting recognized and so on. So what we did strategically within the organization was we actually merged the performance and the motivations of the team towards a central business goal, and not have retail and online being separate. That's a very big shift in mindset, because traditionally when you hire people from a retail industry, they're tuned to selling people as a typical retail person. And now for them to talk about customer journey on the website or on the apps, how many products are in the cart, what are they viewing, what are the preferences, what do you recommend to them, all of that were all digital jargons for them. So we did a very big shift inside and started calling it as an omni-channel journey. And what is now an omni-channel journey, back then it was a unified journey is what we started to do. And in a traditional jewelry sector, we started doing certain other innovations, like jewelry is bought by families together. So we brought in the try at home as a concept in the jewelry industries, where you can just book few jewelry from the website or the apps, and we bring the product to your home and the family can view it and buy it. That expanded to a natural journey of Carrot Lane Live, where people across abroad and India can do a group buying. You can be on a video call and still buy it. All of that happened because the trust started building up. And today what we see is 90% of the journey for people starts online and ends in a retail showroom, because we have more than 260 showrooms across India and 100 cities are covered, which means every few kilometers there is a Carrot Lane showroom on large cities. So they can easily trust the brand, but still they do the shortlisting, discovery, preferentials, all of that happens on the digital medium. Conversion happens mostly on the showroom. So even our revenue shows about 80 to 90% is actually coming from the retail, and online, if you take just as a medium, it contributes only 10 to 15%. But anyways, the business benefits, and which is what, so the consumer habit is actually, we are trying to change our business towards a consumer habit. That's the biggest learning that we had, and looking forward, if there is time, to share more insights also.
Sure. It's very interesting. Thank you, Guru. Yeah, Venu, if I could ask you, 100-year-old coffee brand, the brand you said was 50 odd years old, but 100-year-old coffee business, and what's the journey been so far? You've sort of parachuted into a legacy family business. So what is it that you saw as a challenge when you came into your hereditary family business, and where do you sort of see it going from here?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Venu Srinivasan of Leo Coffee. So as you said, sir, it's a 100-year-old legacy brand, so it comes with its own challenges. So I took over in 2011-12, and I'm the third generation in the family. It was started by my grandfather. The we were Chennai only brand. So up from for the last 100 years, we've never ventured outside Chennai. So we were always present in Chennai, and those days coffee was consumed primarily in the south. Even today, south dominates, but then coffee was prevalent more in the south, and even today, 80% is south. So when I came in, the immediate challenge was, okay, we have a base in Chennai. How do we move out of Chennai? That's the main challenge that we faced. And also, like you said, the legacy also brings a lot of baggages. You have some preconceived notions, there are some ideas, outdated ideas that you need to replace. It takes time. So it took about 7-8 years for me to truly get things on track, launch new products. We were primarily into our own shop. So you could come to my shop, grind coffee, and buy it right then and there. We didn't have a range of FMCG products per se. So we launched a range of products, filter coffees, instant, now recently decoction and so forth, and we launched it into the market. We also came up with this fresh grinding kiosk. Instead of you coming to my outlet, you can go to a supermarket and grind in a supermarket itself along with your other products. So we launched a lot of these verticals, if you may, within the organization, and then we started slowly going into the other parts of Tamil Nadu. We went into Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bombay now, parts of Kerala as well. But it's a slow and steady process. I mean, I've made tons of mistakes. We're still learning. Coffee is growing pan-India. North is picking up big time. So it's a very interesting part of our journey today, because there are a lot of coffee startups as well, who are heavily funded. They have a lot of money, capital. Capital is easily available today. So that's another thing we grapple with, because we still are a family-owned concern. We haven't taken outside capital yet, especially venture capital or private equity. That's another point I wanted to raise. For homegrown, since today's discussion is about brands of Bharat, I think it starts with the capital. If you can manage your own resources and have your own capital, then you have the freedom to do what you want. So it might be a slow drawn process, it might be a time consuming process without tons of capital available. Even we now are sometimes tempted, should we go in for external capital? But like I said, even if you do go for external capital, something like what Carrot Lane has done, who's taken from Titan, which is again an Indian brand. So I was just telling him, the fact that a co-founder is still there in the company speaks volumes. So anyway, so it's been and we are there in the digital as well. I mean, we sell across all online platforms. So for a traditional brand like us, innovation has been interesting, yet challenging. The future seems very bright at the moment, especially for coffee. So, looking forward.
Thanks a lot, Venu. So, Mr. Balaji, good afternoon. You've come down from Coimbatore. Repose mattresses, I hadn't heard of Repose, to be honest, till this summit was announced. Fairly crowded marketplace again in sleep solutions. You have the Curl-Ons and the legacy Duroflex and so on. So how has Repose sort of taken on this challenge of entering a fairly crowded market? And during lunch you were saying that anyone can start up a mattress business. So how do you sort of ensure that you differentiate yourself and create a niche for yourself?
Good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for having me here. Suresh, I think before we get into the details of that particular question, I'd like to set the context over here. The problem is, unfortunately, mattress is something that people spend 1/3 of their life on, but they don't give it the importance it deserves. So if you take most of the people here, even an informal survey that we had done, 9 out of 10 people don't even know the color of the mattress they're sleeping on. Forget the brand name. So that's the level of involvement people have. Let's take, for example, a mobile phone. The kind of involvement and the research and all those things that you do before you go and buy the particular phone. There's enough and more research you would have done. And also, you will be having a very meaningful kind of dialogue with the person at the other side. But that's not the case when it comes to mattresses. Because unfortunately, mattress is something that is always triggered by a certain occasion for purchase. For example, it could be a wedding in a family, or it could be moving into a new home, or you've got backache, you go to the doctor, doctor asks you which mattress do you sleep on, that's when you come back and lift the bed sheet and check the condition of the mattress, I don't know after how long. And in fact, that's the time you would probably notice how uneven or all the other kinds of things that would be there inside the mattress. So this is where the fundamental issue lies. And even before, this cluttered market that we are fighting with, it is the consumer involvement issue that we are trying to address. For example, there are lots of people who come to the showroom to buy a cot and a mattress. But the kind of importance they give to a cot, I mean, they're okay to spend 50,000 or a lakh on a cot. But when it comes to a mattress, it's like the whole attitude and approach is, I'll give you another 5,000 or whatever, can you please, give me a combo offer. I mean, so we are actually educating people on the importance of a mattress, and we ask them, are you sleeping on the cot or the mattress? And obviously, they're sleeping on the mattress. So that's when people also, get aware of the fact that a mattress is so important. Not just that, at the same time, we're not undermining the importance of a cot. Anything at home needs to look good also. But the fact remains that people need to be a little more involved. Now, let's take the pandemic that we just, had it a few years ago. All of us became very health conscious. At least we pretended to be a lot more health conscious. In the sense, we started having less sugar or no sugar in our beverages. We started having juice instead of colas. We started doing yoga, exercise, Zumba, walking. And to make our lives worse, we've got our WhatsApp bombarded with so much of information where everyone and anybody is coming and advising on what to do and what not to do when it comes to health. So this being the context, after all this, people go and sleep on a pile of garbage, which is your mattress. Actually, you'd be surprised that the kind of dust mites, fungus, bacteria, virus, sweat, hair, your pet's hair, and lots of other things that gets accumulated over a period of time in your mattress. And you are actually inhaling and exhaling for 6 to 8 hours every night, thereby picking up a lot of allergies from your own mattress, and we complain about the pollution outside. That's the sad state of affairs we are living in. So this is where we are trying to educate people on the importance of a mattress. And obviously, when it comes to a product where the involvement is really low, price becomes an issue. People are okay to spend a lakh on a phone. But when it comes to mattress, it's like, do I really need to pay so much is the question. So keeping all this in mind, the way we went about it in a very cluttered market, and making mattress is no rocket science, anybody can do it. But the whole approach we took was in terms of our positioning of our brand, we went out and, all the brands, if you looked at, in some way or the other, they were talking about sleep. Different adjectives, whether it's deep sleep, great sleep, sound sleep, whatever sleep. And if you go to a retail showroom, the entire retail space in terms of communication would pretty much be a category communication. You'd see a nice looking mattress, you'll either see a nice looking girl or a baby or a family, and there'll be a predictable line about the mattress and a logo. That's the construct of the communication. Now, when we went about it, we thought we should be a little different. And when we looked outside the window, we thought that this entire era is about ideas. Because ideas is what is shaping this world these days. So externally, ideas is something that's going to be there forever. And how could we, as a brand, connect with ideas is what we looked at. So there was a deep connection between sleep and ideas. A well-rested brain will really make you fresh to get inspiration and think about whatever ideas, no matter what business you're into. So that's how we went about positioning the brand. And the expression of that was wake up to fresh ideas. So that's the way we went about positioning our brand. Due to paucity of time, I'll keep it short here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very interesting thing. And even the name Repose, I guess, sort of comes from that. Yeah. Dr. Suresh, if I could ask you, Great Lakes Management Institute has been around for some time. It's built itself a fairly, should I say, storied reputation. Would you like to just sort of take us through the journey? And you're up against the Indian Institutes of Management, the ISBs and XLRIs and so on. So sitting here in Chennai, which is not earlier, I think LIBA was there, Loyola Institute of Business Administration. So how have you all sort of positioned yoursells? What is it that you believe has now helped you all to sort of carve out this unique niche for yourselves?
Thank you, Suresh, and thank you to E4M for this forum, and thank you all for braving a post-lunch session. Hopefully you're still awake. But I think we were set up in 2004 by a professor from, who was from Kellogg, from Northwestern University. And his dream was to actually set up something in his home state, which is Tamil Nadu. He was earlier involved in setting up ISB and MDI Gurgaon as well. But his dream was always to do something in Chennai, and Great Lakes was born out of that. Great Lakes, of course, refers to the Great Lakes in the US. We don't have any lakes on campus. But to answer your question in terms of what we are all about, we were set up as a school with a vision of what we call a global mindset with Indian roots. And it is our firm belief that today's managers need to be facile. They need to be equipped to handle any kind of a situation anywhere in the world. There is greater fluidity in the way managers are expected to perform. The learning curves are they're steep, and therefore you really have to be on top of your game if you want to succeed in today's world. Just today I was actually talking to two people from BCG as well as from Bain about what the needs are for today's graduates. And a lot of it boils down to things like, basic things like communication skills, but it is also about problem-solving skills, the ability to deal with abstraction, the ability to deal with incomplete information. And unfortunately, the education system in India has basically been very regimented in the way it has approached things, essentially teaching to the book, and everyone who talks about Kotler and any other book that we may refer to. Books may capture the information or the knowledge that existed. Books don't capture the information that is, or the knowledge that is yet to be created. And the greater we focus on creating new knowledge, the more likely is it that our graduates are going to be future ready, that they're going to be equipped for what is going to come out there. Just think about what happened during the pandemic. Every single business model that companies functioned on basically got called into question, because the assumptions that you went in with were just not there anymore. And you were basically forced to innovate on the fly. You were forced to come up with solutions which may not be the most ideal solutions, but you had to, I hate the word jugaad, but there was a lot of jugaad in the way we went about things. And that spirit of experimentation, that spirit of being agile and trying new things is not something that is taught in any school in India. And I will say this, it's not taught at the ISBs and the IIMs of the world. I come from the IIM system. I went to IIM Calcutta. I know for a fact that it didn't. I never learned about all that. You learn all these things on the fly. And what if there were an opportunity for students to learn some of these things, incorporate it into the curriculum, that you can basically innovate, you can experiment, you can try different things. And that's really what we're trying to build into our program, to stand apart from everyone else. And it is my belief that most incumbent schools, and this is classic for any kind of an incumbent versus a disruptor. I would hate to say that we are a disruptor because we're 20 years old, but we at least have a disruptive mindset. But the idea being that incumbents typically suffer from this typical, mindset, which is to say that, if I ain't broke, I don't need to fix it, right? And therefore, the idea that, you should be prepared to disrupt yourself before others come in and disrupt you, that needs to be inbuilt into the DNA of an institution, and that certainly goes for the way I think about education.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience would have found it fascinating, some of the aspects that you spoke about. Mr. Mani and Harish, if I could ask you quickly, in terms of how do you ensure that when patients come to you and when they go away, do you all have exit audits or something? How do you ensure, because one of the big things, the challenges in the healthcare industry, as it now obtains, once upon a time, a person who had, relatively small illnesses went to his family doctor who had, without computers, an entire knowledge of everything about his health and his parents' health and his siblings' health and everything in the back of his head. So how do you ensure that you need to build goodwill and you need to build, should I say, stickiness with your patients to come back? So, and it's not just a price point element, it's also about the quality of the clinical outcomes. So what is the sort of approach that you all have taken?
So, Suresh, I think, one thing which I would like to add to what Mr. Balaji said now, I think, as he mentioned, the cot is very important and the mattress is the least priority when you go for a purchase. We also come from an industry where this is the least priority for everyone in this room. I think everybody would have spent anything and whatever is needed, but I'm sure that many people wouldn't have proper insurances, or they may not be the first priority today, that tomorrow morning my first priority is to get the health check done for my parents. I think nobody has that in their calendar for sure. I can ensure that. Of course, going by that yardstick, I think South still has a lead in that. Now, what happens with our industry is that being a least priority spent in your total bucket list, right? Anything and everything what we do, people try and find faults with that. I think that's one area. That's first. Because if I don't have a, I would say, margin for error when I'm running a business. And I always say that in my business, the consequence is death. The consequence is nothing less than death. So if I mess up anything, I might end up killing a patient. And that's huge. The consequence is huge for me. So for my checks and balances, as you mentioned, my audit mechanisms are quite high. And as an institution, as I said, when I got the product right, I think I comply with probably the world's highest standards, which is available today. And that goes through, as it stands in pecking order, we are a JCI compliant hospital with NABH and all the stuff. That's, again, we can still manage. You can get an accreditation process or an audit process through. But if the company's DNA doesn't believe in that, I think we always question us every day in and every day out in the morning that whether these accreditations are truly, I would say, credible and we live up to those certificates which are hanging on the wall. What happens is that whether we check these numbers on a frequent basis. In fact, I will just say some numbers for all of you to understand. If in my hospital the surgical site is not marked, the patient will not move from the room. I think that's a criteria.
What is not marked?
Surgical site. If you're moving for a surgery, if the site is not marked, the patient will not move from the room. That's a condition we have put. And surgeons shout, everybody, the whole hell breaks loose, but my smallest nurse stands the ground and says, sir, can't move the patient. Simple. Because one wrong surgery can take me down the drains, whatever I've done for the last 4-5 years. So these are certain checks and balances which we put, apart from the infection rates, whatever industry benchmarks which we need to do. Because all these are done for us, because I monitor close to 250 clinical parameters and non-clinical parameters in my hospital. As everybody will have for their own jewelry, they might have certain things. For mattresses, they will have something. I have very, very serious metrics to measure from clinical and non-clinical side. Because, for me, the margin of error and the consequence of my error is death. So I can't take chances. So for me, I think I have to be pretty serious about these numbers, and I ensure that's been drilled down to everybody. And does that say that, okay, whatever I do, I don't have errors? This is the only industry which has, it's a service industry. I can't guarantee any outcome. I can always say that I can give a certain product, I can ensure this bottle comes with a certain ppm of water, but I can't guarantee anything in my industry. I think that's another consequence of running a hospital, where my outcomes, I can say I'm industry benchmark 90% survival rate, but there is 10% chances for anything and everything going southwards. So I run a business which has got huge consequence, which can give you, the only happy moment in my hospital is a delivery. Where a child is born, I think child is born, that's the only happy moment I have. Other than that, I think I have risk for anything and everything in this hospital. And my criteria of running this organization is to keep as transparent as possible. We give as much information to the patient so that they believe that they are getting the right information. I think classic example what SP Balasubramaniam was admitted with us. The outcome was not good, but the communication was superb, I would say. That was the best example where the outcome was not good, but we gave enough and more communication, even post the outcome. It was well communicated to the family, to everyone. So the family stood by us and said that they did the right things. In fact, we had faculties joining us across the globe treating him so that the outcome can be measured properly, and we can say hand on heart that we did the right thing for him, whatever possible. So these are things which we do and we communicate. We are coming up with clinical data for everybody to look at it and see that whether this institution is at par with Cleveland or Mayo, and then they can choose to come to MGM or not.
Sure. Thanks a lot. That's very interesting. Guru, if I may, fulfillment, you spoke about how it's now just down to 10%. Do you now, looking back at the journey, do you sort of think you still have an opportunity to enlarge that digital pie, or are you happy keeping it that way? And how do you ensure that fulfillment through the digital delivery, for instance? I think you mentioned couriers and so on. If you could just talk a bit about that.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, we prefer that way. In fact, the consumer behavior is tuned to be that way. If, for example, anybody who wants to do a purchase today gets onto Google Maps to determine where the location is or find out the reviews of the company or the brand and the products. And so on, all the research is done online. So we don't want to change that behavior. Just behind the scene, we want it to be fully omni-ready. Meaning there are certain things that one can do within the device that you have at your hand. You can actually select shortlist certain products. You can see what is the inventory available in the showrooms. If you like a particular design, is that particular design available in that particular showroom near me or not? Is a feature that we provide. And now we have taken one step further to say, if it is not available there, can I book that design to be delivered to that particular store? So we call it as a triad store. That's something which we came up recently. And we have gone so far into this space of jewelry that today I'm wearing this t-shirt with the tagline called Postcards, because we have launched a new product called Pro Postcards, a new application. It's a tech-heavy application where the complexity is hidden behind the scene. What we decided to do is, what are we doing in this business is what we started thinking about. And we realized that we are actually helping customers express their emotions through jewelry. If you think that way, the jewelry is just a form factor, but all is about the emotions. You don't gift a jewelry to an unknown person, or jewelry as such as a gift means you actually are emotionally attached to that person, much bigger than gifting a small product. So hence we wanted to do something on the jewelry space, on the emotion space. So today we launched an application which is machine learning based, which actually saves your emotions for eternity in the ring that you buy. So you can actually buy a ring from Carrot Lane and record a video message and attach to the particular ring digitally. So anybody who scans, not anybody, the gift recipient who scans the jewelry will be able to play the video that you have recorded, and that is forever. So a grandma can gift a jewelry, a ring to a granddaughter, and even after the grandma passing away, anytime the granddaughter scans that ring, will be able to play the video that the grandma recorded for that person. So something as a new concept that we came up with today. And so digital and all the other inferences that we make out of this are all the things that we want to continue to do. Fulfillment, we are making certain innovations in that space as well. So we realized jewelry is not like for a quick commerce delivery. Nobody is going to buy a jewelry for a 10-minute shipping, right? So we try to bring down our, the delivery cycle from 48 hours to 24 hours. And I think that is where, people are today, and expecting jewelry to be delivered in a 24-hour cycle. So we have started doing that in various cities in India. And that is where we want to stop also, because doing further actually is not going to do any good for the business, except for increasing the cost of it also. So the jewelry that is getting shipped right from 2008 onwards is getting insured. We have service providers who in fact, they did not know even how to answer to us when we said we want to ship jewelry through the couriers, right? But they actually innovated on behalf of us. And for the last 15 years, we're able to do it. And if you think about it, a lot of people would think that it is such a high value item. How do you want to ship it in a courier, right? But the pilferages or the lost in transit, all of that percentages are very less. For a large scale business that we do, we are almost like a 2,700 crore business today. And I can say that the percentages are very minuscule in terms of either somebody intentionally, willfully cheating on it, or, packages getting lost and so on. So fulfillment is largely advanced, and people are able to track the journey. They know exactly when the product is going to reach us and so on.
Thanks a lot. Venu, if you could talk to us about the competition in terms of, the Starbucks of today. And Coffee Day, of course, was a homegrown brand. But now Starbucks has come in with Tata backing, and that's fairly serious deep pockets for them. So how do you sort of see the competitive landscape in the industry, and how do you sort of want to, you did mention capital and so on, so.
Frankly, I don't see Starbucks as a competition. In fact, they're helping us because they're widening the consumer base. So as Starbucks come in, they open more stores, they're bringing in youngsters into the coffee culture, especially school-going kids, college kids. So they're the top funnel, basically. So they bring in the consumer, and we, at the lower end, are a home brand. So, you know, traditionally our coffee is bought for the kitchen. So Starbucks coming in, the cafes, the big chains coming in is all very good for us because they're creating new customers. And eventually those youngsters are going to become home coffee drinkers. And coffee drinking evolves as you age. Just like, you know, you start off with, in college, mixing Coke and Pepsi with your drinks, and then you graduate, and then finally you're a single malt drinker just with ice, right? So finally, like we're talking about black coffee. No youngster can drink black coffee immediately. So it's a journey. So we want to be at the bottom of the pyramid and wait for the customer. So since you mentioned Starbucks, it's great they're here. When I talk about competition, it's the retail competition where there are a lot of brands starting up, launching coffee beans, coffee powders all over India, which is also good. But then what I raised was these guys are flushed with capital because you know very well today startups, the seed round, Series A, Series B, they all happen very fast. But we've also seen them deviate from their core culture, you know, because once you start taking on immense outside capital, then you got to appease the investors. And, you know, so again, where you take the money from is very important. That's why, you know, as a family-owned brand, I need to be very, very careful about it. I mean, if I was a founder, I'll be, you know, see, I'm all for globalization, getting big fast, but then we have a responsibility to take care of. So competition is healthy. You know, a lot of coffee drinking is growing across. I mean, it's challenging either ways, right? So competition is always good for us. But Starbucks coming in is great for us, actually.
Interesting. Thanks a lot. Balaji, quickly, repose, where do you go from here? I mean, do you sort of see yourselves managing to capture a larger pan-India market, or sort of what's going to be the go-to strategy for you?
Yeah, definitely we'd like to get into almost every bedrooms of India. So the point is, we currently have about 6 plants. Although we are a 11-year-old child, we've got our mother plant in Coimbatore. We've got one in Pune, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Gwalior, Meerut, Ghaziabad. So these are the factories. And the reason for having so many factories is the service becomes very important, because for a very voluminous product like a mattress, it's very difficult for us to send it from Coimbatore. The cost of sending the mattress would become more than the product itself. So therefore, it's important for us to have, you know, plants in various locations. And not just that. Another interesting point is in certain markets, especially in the West, you've got non-standard sizes. So you can't have stocks built up with your standard size mattresses. So as and when the orders come, you got to make mattresses and, you know, deliver. So customized mattresses is something that we're really working on. And in terms of a market expansion, we are currently there in about 17 states, having consolidated ourselves in the south fairly well. But I'm not surprised if many people haven't heard about repose, because like I told you, you only think about a mattress when there's a need for it. So we are currently there in about 17 states. So we are there in the west, north. East, we don't want to get into right now because it's a very, very low-end market. And for other reasons, we are now focusing on stabilizing the other markets. And one more point I'd like to substantiate here in terms of our positioning of Wake Up to Fresh Ideas. It's not a very, you know, fashionable thing like having a tagline or whatever. It is something that we believe in, and we have demonstrated that also. Being an 11-year-old brand, we launched India's first locker mattress, where we got a locker inside the mattress which is concealed. The other interesting product that we developed is a memory foam music pillow, which is again India's first. So there is a wire that comes out of a pillow, and you can connect it to your smartphone, and while you're lying down, you can listen to whatever you want. So that way, we're trying to come up with fresh ideas, trying to be true to our brand belief. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. And Suresh, lastly, you, one of the big areas where management schools have a, should I say, large role to play is in the collaboration with industry and incubating startups and so on. So the West has done very well, especially the US has done very well in having, you know, industry supporting chairs or supporting a lot of research inside universities and so on. So how has been your experience in trying to enlarge the, should I say, catchment area with industry, not just for placement of your graduates, but also for research and so on?
Yeah. So I can touch upon this on 3 different dimensions, and I'll keep this very short in the interest of time. Number one, I think, is in terms of the curriculum itself, in terms of getting inputs from industry and people in industry in important positions. I have a Dean's Advisory Board that is comprised of people from industry, and we meet every 6 months. So we are always getting input from them in terms of what is required, what are the skills that are required, and so on. So that forms the basis for designing the curriculum or redesigning the curriculum or rejigging the curriculum on a periodic basis. The second aspect of this is in terms of what you talked about in terms of incubation, where we have an incubator on campus, and it is an Atal Innovation Mission funded incubator, and this basically helps a lot of our young students and alumni to actually come back and start something, and they can basically try to contribute to the economy in that way. And the third aspect is you talked about research, and a lot of the research that we do at the institution are basically projects that are highly relevant to industry. We have partnerships with companies to basically work on things like white papers and case studies, so that these are actually directly beneficial. We have a CLD, which is corporate learning and development, which is customized exec ed, and so we work with a lot of companies to basically seek their input and basically work on specific projects for them. So so all of these are basically part of the overall outreach that we have with industry.
Thank you. With the audience, I'm sure there are a few questions for our panelists today. So, if you could just identify yourself and get a mic and ask the question, please. So,
hi, this question is to Mr. Balaji. Okay, my name is T.G. Anand. I head a company called Team Universe. I'm from Bangalore. Sir, in the morning, the first gentleman said, like, when we are sleeping, we should not carry our mobile to the room and we have to keep it outside and things like that. So, in your new system, you are telling that for the pillows, you're going to have a cable or something like that, this one. So, it will be like through the Bluetooth, or we have to keep the mobile closer by and the radiation again?
No, currently the model that we have developed is the wire that gets connected. But I do understand that it's not really good to keep your mobile close to your, when you're sleeping. But the point remains that even otherwise people listen to whatever music through headphones. So I'm not really causing any further harm. I'm only trying to replace an existing system. But having said that, we'll also, work on the Bluetooth system and all that. But I don't know how practical that will be. Again, you got to switch it off and all that. And here, we also design the entire thing in such a way where the volume by design remains very low. So even if you go off to sleep, it's not really going to disturb anyone. And secondly, even the person sleeping beside you will not get disturbed. One interesting point that I'd like to highlight here is the way we are going about positioning this product is that we are positioning it as a gift. Because these days, as you know, gifting is a huge trauma for most people. It's a stress. You don't know what to give, whether they have it or not. whether they like the color or not. Lots of other things have happened. And to take care of that, to some extent, you have gift vouchers. But even over there, you get to see the value and there's an issue. So what we have done is we've tried to promote it as a gift because hopefully the receiver and the giver, both of them will be happy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. In US, in Macy's, we have seen that people can go and sit over there and feel it and all those things. But in India, when we go to a furniture store, their big board is there mentioned, do not touch and all those things. How are you addressing this? And to answer your first question, I have a king coil and the golden beige color.
Oh, great. So you're in the minority, clearly. Because very few people know what mattress. I mean, also, let me tell you that off late, because of the entire category itself, being a lot more visible thanks to e-commerce, people are a little more aware, but I think we are only scratching the surface. We have not really gone deep down into it. Now, coming to the other question that you had asked, see, as you know, when it comes to retail, location plays a very important role, and therefore the rentals are huge. So, for a product like mattress alone, you cannot justify the kind of rent you're paying along with your other expenses. So what most people do is they take a very small shop, and in fact, the way you're supposed to be buying a mattress is to lie down on it, check the, because there is nothing called the best mattress. All of us are different people, right from sinking effect to a very firm, we are all somewhere in between. So whatever you like best is best for you. Like the way we prefer coffee or tea, right? Some have it without sugar, some have it strong, whatever. So likewise, it's very subjective and you know best about your body. So over here what happens is, the retailers are forced to stack mattresses like books. And then you go and just press and punch. And given your knowledge as a consumer, compared to the half-baked knowledge that a retailer has, I mean, he will just, being a businessman, he will tell you, this mattress has got this. And you have no idea what this is. And you're in a hurry to purchase because you don't know what question to ask. You'll probably ask him how many years warranty, which should have ideally been the 28th question in that list. But the problem is we don't know what to ask if you compare any other category. So that is where the issue lies. And in our brand thinking, what we're trying to do is we're not trying to sell the product. We are only trying to bring awareness among the consumers. So everybody in this hall, my humble request is, please spend enough time in choosing the right mattress for you because you're spending 1/3 of your life on it. And even if it's not a repose mattress, I'm perfectly okay with it. Thank you.
I think we've really run out of time here. Thank you very much to each and every one of you, Dr. Suresh, Mr. Balaji, Venu, Guru, and Mr. Manian. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah.